And we're back here for episode 2 of Under the Lights 804, where we'll be discussing the best of high school football in the 804 area, 804 football. And we got our guy Brandon Tyson Visuals. What's going on, man? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing good, man. I'm glad. I'm glad to be here. Glad to be on here. Glad that you created this platform for high school football. It's something that's important to me, um, and I love it. Once I saw you was doing it, you my guy. I'm like, shoot, I get on there whenever you need me to. So glad to be
And,
here.
and yeah, we definitely have you on for a couple times, several times during the high school football season, and it was good for us to reconnect during 804 Media Day. So it was just cool
Absolutely.
to for sure. Yeah, man, and like you said, like we've all like this is the golden age of high school football in the 804, and be a part of it is yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
It's special. It's a special time. I think that certain platforms like this and certain things a couple other guys got is just it's so needed because it's something that was kind of absent for a while the media changed over. Like I was one of those guys. I was one of those kids. I think I told you this before. Like I can remember opening up the newspaper and looking and seeing Macho Harris ran for 300 some yards, and what I'm saying. Like that was something that was very important to me. In my childhood growing up. So to see it kind of evolve into a platform like this, it's cool, and I love it.
Yeah, man. Like how we would shout out to our guy Danny Lewis. We were talking last week out about the 804 media day, and it just felt like such like a celebration, something that that was something new to us, and having a situation like that. And I like just camaraderie with all the coaches coming together, where you seeing like guys coming together and dapping each other up, and it's just more so just a celebration of the sport. So I think that's another thing too, where it's just a great time here in the 804 for sure.
Right, and that just to piggyback off what you said about 804 Media Day, like that was something that was like incredible to me. Like I never seen that before in our area, and to see all of these different players. I'm looking over here. You got Bull Richardson and Damari Carter. You look over here. You got Davion Brown. You look beside me. You got Markel Dabney, Avion. Look like it's just to see everybody under one roof, and in such a beautiful office that they have down at the Times Dispatch. To see everybody kind of get together, like you said, it was a celebratory thing, and it was it felt like the real kickoff to the season, and I'm gonna be looking forward to it every year. I know they're gonna Zach Joachim over at Times Dispatch and their
Yeah.
staff. I know they're gonna continue to make that thing even better year by year. So that was cool. That was real cool.
Yeah, for sure. And what's funny is as we dive into like preseason wise, I was cool like having those like the preseason like the rankings and how that kind of came out. So I was like it built up to it.
Absolutely.
Man,
Yeah.
if week one was the indication of how this year will be, it's gonna be a crazy year.
It
So
it is.
Brandon, you do your thing down on Forest Hill Avenue. We with Huguenot. So before we this show got to get started, we got to address the elephant in the room.
Right.
What was your thoughts on St. Christopher's win over Huguenot, 21-6 win on the Friday night? What's your overall thoughts on
Well, I'm gonna say this. The first thing I want to do for sure is give credit to St. Chris. Like, I was reading a lot of stuff online, and you know, it was it was kind of people saying that we didn't do this and we didn't do that. As far as Huguenot, but I'm like, man, like those dudes came over to play. They came over to play. They did a really good job. Now, I want to say that I am media. I am not no coach. As you can do, I'm a part of them for sure.
it?
But I run media, so I don't want to talk for any of the coaches there. That's for Coach Scott and the staff. But you know, I think to me, you know, we looked a little like we kind of walked into something that we thought maybe we were just gonna win just by being us, you know. And you know, it was a lot of chemistry issues and stuff like that. But you know, it's early in the season. I still feel confident. But hats off to St. Chris. Um, I knew this already, but Darius Gray, he is like 100% the truth. I actually saw his mom at the grocery store yesterday, and I had to stop her and give her a hug because you know not only is he a really good football player, but if you ever meet him, like he's just a really good person. Like he's a really good kid. I saw him uh, at 804 Media Day. That was the first time I seen him about 4 years. I didn't know if he's gonna remember me. He a 5 star. You know, he pretty much could have went anywhere in the country, and he stopped me and came up to me. So, really good guy, really good player. Um, and it was definitely a shocker. And you know, hats off to St. Chris, and they deserve every, you know, every piece of attention, every you know, everything that they got from that. And they played a great game.
Yeah, and like you said, Darius Gray, great performance when he had 5 sacks and an offensive touchdown, committed to South Carolina, and yeah, like he's legit, the real deal. But yeah, and that's one thing too, and that's one thing I kind of like about this area too, where the how that we have a good private school sector of schools as well too, as well as a public. I think that's one
Right.
thing I like about now, especially considering the fact, you know, you have obviously you have city schools, you have prep schools, you have county schools, and they're all pretty much on the same level. And I think that's the kind of beauty of the 804. So, like you said, it's kind of one of the things where a lot of people think that was a sense was a shock, but it just shows you, like you said, they got dogs on that team. Don't just people, when people think on the surface, hey, private school. No, these dudes dog, like we talked about. Darius Gray is a 5-star athlete. Like he's going to the University of South Carolina. Like,
Yep, and he going
yeah,
for a reason. He going
yeah,
for a
yeah,
reason.
yeah. Shane Beamer came up here and got him. So
Yeah, yeah.
for sure.
And like you said, like the talent, you know. And I've been saying this. I said this years ago. You know, back when I was running Virginia Sports Network, I'm like, when I really kind of took a look around the area, you know, I'm looking at Trinity, I'm looking at their roster, I'm looking at Benedictine, you know, and like I'm gonna be honest, when I was in high school, we ain't care nothing. I mean, they were like, we didn't really care nothing about the private school. We thought it was weak, you know, and to see what it's come to now, like man, those those guys are really really good. Like they are really good. And then, you know, I'm glad you mentioned city football. You know, because you know a lot of times it's just and I may be wrong. This may just be from my perspective, but you know, it looks like Huguenot gets a lot of a lot of the shine. Um, you know, but I don't know if that's because we're in one of the higher classes. You know, when we where we get to play a Verona or possibly play a Dinwiddie. You know, in the playoffs. But um, man, you got to give the programs like TJ and Armstrong like those are two really really good programs. And TJ really has been going since you know doing really well since about like 2019 if I'm not mistaken when they won their region back then. You know, it was a really good football teams and Armstrong, like I love what Coach Pruitt does with them over in the East End. Um, you know, it's a beautiful thing because that's another thing coming up. You know, I played at Clover Hill High School when with or Huguenot on the schedule, like we looking at like that's a stat game. That's a stat
Yeah.
game, you know, and you know, obviously you still have a struggling Richmond High School and John Marshall, but you can't sleep on Huguenot, TJ Armstrong on any given night. You know, all three teams are really good and have proven themselves the past few years. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. So we gotta talk about the number one ranked team in the city with Verona, cruising past William Fleming of Roanoke, 41-14. What's your overall thoughts on that Verona getting a road win out in Roanoke?
Oh, that was expected. That was expected. From my perspective. I know we're just looking at William Fleming. I know they lost, their best player last year, and just going off the strength of no disrespect, um, last year they lost to a Bird program in the playoffs that was not really really good, in my opinion. And so, just looking at William Fleming, losing him and then coming and playing a powerhouse like Verona, I expected that. I don't remember the full stats, but I know, White had a very, very good game again. He's an outstanding athlete. Like I remember the first time I saw him play. Actually, I recorded one of his games that he had a clip that ended up going viral, like Sports in the Top 10. Where he threw the ball up to a receiver in the corner of the end zone, and play went really really viral. But that's the first game I really saw him, and I was just amazed at his athleticism, and with him not being a very tall, very big guy, he just he commands the field really well. Anybody that follows high school football remember 2 years, oh yeah, almost 2 years ago, his freshman year, when he came in when Lil One Johnson got hurt at Highland Springs. I was
Springs, yeah.
filming that game too. And I love Linwood Johnson. As a lot of people know, he came over to Huguenot last year, and did really, really well for us. But in that game, when Caleb White came in, it changed the game. And he was a freshman, almost pulled it out. And I think that's when like the world, in you know our world, like really really learned about him. So very very expected win. Those guys are well oiled machine over there, well oiled machine, and they. I don't think there's anybody that's down that they're the number one team in the area right now.
Absolutely. And like you said, White Sheet, when he came in that Highland Springs game, like you said, because Verona pretty much was like down in the water,
Oh
essentially.
yeah.
But when he came in, he provided that spark. And I like just his uh like he's like even kill. Like you can
Very
even
poised.
just tell very poised, even kill. And I was like, so even even in the road game against Dinwiddie last year, I'm like, yeah, this. But like I said, that first impression when I seen him as a freshman, pretty much, you know, I almost beat Highland Springs. It was a 1 point game, and yeah, it
Absolutely.
was,
And it,
yeah,
it honestly, not to take nothing away from Harrisburg, Verona really should have won. It was a play that changed that game. That really changed that game. It was a turnover, but if that didn't happen, Verona would have pulled that out. So, but yeah, no, they played really well. From what I saw, obviously I wasn't there. That was all the way in Roanoke, but just looking at the stats, and it looked like they right where they left off last year, or even better.
yeah, and that's one thing too. Like you said, they head and shoulders are the number one team in this area for sure.
Oh,
Just
no
they
question.
just loaded on both ends, and that's another one. Being able, like you said, seeing them at media day, it's like, yeah, yeah, these guys different. These
They are.
guys, these
They
guys
are. You
built.
see them in person. And again,
Yeah,
I've known these guys, like I've known D1 since 11, 12 years old. I've known Bull, he played in the All-Star game with my nephew at like 8 years old. Like I've known these dudes and seeing what they look like at 17 years old. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. So yeah,
yeah.
they're very good team.
Yeah. So as we now we gotta talk about the other team on the other side of the airport. We gotta talk about the Highland Springs Springers, a dominating win over Hopewell, 68-12. Win over Hanover on Friday night. What's your overall thoughts on the Springer romper versus Hopewell? What's your overall thoughts on it?
I think that um, besides obviously Huguenot losing to St. Chris, I think that was one of the most interesting games um, from this past weekend, just because, and I believe Danny Lewis said it. I believe on your show or something I watched or listened to somewhere. You kind of didn't really know what to expect out of Highland Springs. You know that they're obviously coached by Coach Johnson, legendary coach in the area for sure. You know that East End. They gonna get players. They gonna get athletes regardless. You know, coming out of Glen Lee, Rec, and Highland Springs, you know you're gonna get them.
Mhm.
Um, I think I think maybe people aren't used to Highland Springs maybe having that um not a lot of star power, so to speak. You know, like that one maybe heavily recruited guy. You know, I think that's what people are used to, and because maybe you didn't have that, you know, people really didn't know what to expect. And I think they pretty much made a statement
Yeah.
with that win against Hopewell. What I will say is, you know, no disrespect to Hopewell. When I was looking at a lot of the preseason polls, I didn't really understand why some people were kind of high on them. Just looking at what they had coming back, obviously you got a very talented defensive and offensive lineman in T. Ron Richardson over at Hopewell. And you know, a couple other really good guys, obviously, but I didn't really understand that. But you know, like I said, Highland Springs, they came out and handled business. When I was checking the score as I was, you know, at the Huguenot game, I'm looking, I'm like, did this say? I think it's some one thing I said said like 30 nothing in the first quarter or something like that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, like this isn't like a you know a scrub to like this, you know.
Yeah.
It's still Hopewell, you know. I think this is
Yeah.
one of the lower Hopewell teams, but at the end of the day, it's Hopewell. So that was really shocking. And I think with them moving down to Class 5, man, that is that that changes a lot. You know that changes a lot. So you know it'll be interesting, but huge victory for Highland Springs for sure.
Yeah, and it's something. And I actually had the opportunity to talk to Coach Johnson. And we talked about the media day, and I had actually we would really discuss as far as going as far as the adversity, going through the adversity where like that the expectation when it doesn't happen, and just that whole just sense of, hey, getting back to kind of you know, to what people deem as kind of like the way of the spring away west in a dominating fashion, and just
Right,
overcoming adversity where, you know, those things, that the situation happens. But it's like you said, this is a team, like you said, it's a mystery where it's unlike, like, you know, like it's usually like like they would have like those 5-star guys, almost similar to kind of like what's around is. You would have pretty much, you know, get 4 or 5 star guys on both ends of the field. Versus
right.
here, where you got, like you said, I think this is going to be probably one of those teams that, you know, that's the one thing too with Coach Johnson. Um, you know, you'll run through a brick wall for him.
Hmm.
He's that kind of guy. He has that type of presence. I couldn't
Very
imagine
good, very good coach.
being in a locker room with him at 6:30 in the afternoon, get ready for a 7 o'clock kickoff. The many times I've talked to Coach Johnson, that probably about 3 or 4 times I talked to Coach Johnson. It's just he has that presence where it's like, yeah, he's the leader of men, and
Right,
I think, like you said, and they can overcome that where, you know, he had those guys playing for him, and also Eric Bird coming back. I think that's going to be huge for this for Highland Springs this year as
absolutely.
well,
A
and
lot
that
of people
kind of
forget what he did. A lot of people forget what he did as a sophomore. You know,
right,
as a sophomore, he
right.
was really, really good. You know, he had an injury, you know, that he dealt with, you know, a lot of last year. I don't think he played much, but, you know, he was, you know, first team all Metro as a sophomore, you know, had a lot of, you know, yards, touchdowns, really, really good stats. And, you know, again, a lot of people just didn't know what to expect. And then, you know, you also can't forget about that they lost Dayron Ferguson. Dayron Ferguson
Yeah, man. TJ.
transferred over to TJ.
TJ. Yep.
So, you know, you lose that in your backfield as well. But as I heard somebody say, I don't know if it was Gary Hess or who it was, but you know, they just reload, man.
Yeah.
They just reload year after year after year. And it looked like they're regular Highland Springs again.
Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah. So let's just talk about some guys that kind of stood out, some individual performances this week. So what was some players, essentially top performers of the week that you got?
Top performers of the week. So I'm gonna be honest with you right here. when we lost, when Huguenot lost, I didn't look at the paper. I didn't look at nothing else. The only thing I know is from what stuff I saw when I was scrolling.
Yeah.
So do you have a couple stat lines for me that I can?
Yeah, I got I like Caleb Weiss his that line because if my memory serves correct, I think he only played the first half. Or at
Wow.
least like third. I think either I know he played the whole first half. I don't know if he played the third or the fourth, but he went 17 for 19, 277 yards, 4 touchdowns, also and also one rushing touchdown.
Wow.
That's yeah. Um, let's see who else I talked about Darius Gray. He had 5 sacks in that
And
game,
now
and also
I can speak
offensive.
on that one. He
Yeah,
if
yeah,
me personally, if I had to pick somebody, I'm picking
yeah,
Darius Gray. The way he dominated both lines of scrimmage, and and even ended up having a rushing touchdown. If I had to pick a top performer, he'd definitely be in there for sure.
yeah. Also, too, who else I had? Eric Bird. He had 3 touchdowns. I'm not sure how much a yardage that he had, but
Okay, yeah, I did see
he
that.
had 3 touchdowns in that one. Um, charge it to my charge it to my mind. That's my heart. The Glen Allen quarterback, Ralphie Pucinelli.
Puccinelli. Yep,
Puccinelli.
there you go.
He did his thing. He had 4 touchdowns total. So that's the Glen Allen quarterback, a class of 27. So you got 2 years to deal with this young man.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Jamel Howard from Deep Run. He had 146 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. So
Wow.
yeah, it was
Okay.
some good performances this week for sure.
Yeah, man. I'm glad to hear that. And you said deep run, so they won this week. They won, didn't they?
Yeah,
I
Deep
think they beat. I
Run.
think they beat Mechanicsville, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Let me look. So Deep Run. Let's see. I think they played Thursday night, if my memory serves. Yeah, they beat McCaysville 31-10.
okay, yeah, that's big for them because they have struggled.
Yeah,
They've struggled a lot in recent years, and I can remember when they like first opening like the early to mid 2000s somewhere around there. And they actually were pretty good
yeah,
when they first came out.
yeah.
And like I remember the days of like Antoine Exum and stuff like that.
Yes, the Virginia Tech.
Like they
Yeah,
were really really good. So you know it's kind of been seeing them the past few years. It's like wow they went that low. So glad to
yeah.
see them get a win. Glad to see them get a win.
Yeah, so it was some good ones. So let's and this one thing I'm gonna do every week. So it's always we kind of change as far as reaction. So it just depends on our guests, who have you. Like obviously, so this week we're gonna pick apart RVA Sportsnet, their top 12 polls. Definitely huge shout out to our guy Rob. He been on my show like in 2017, long time ago. He probably even remember that he's on my show back in 2017. I think that was one of the years. I think Highland Springs. He came for a state championship preview. I think Highland Springs was in the
Yeah, that
states
was
at
in the
the
middle of
time.
that 4 year run.
And
Yep.
run. So
Hmm.
he probably remember that. But
Mm.
hey, 8 years ago. So in his Super 12 poll, we got obviously number 1 at Verona, number 2 Highland Springs. We got number 3 is Benedictine. Um, 4 is going to be Dinwiddie. Number 5 is Manchester. Number 6 is I don't know why I put initials. So, number 6 is gonna be Thomas Dale. I just wanted to make sure because I was like, all right, make sure I put TD like spell it out. Then
Yeah.
number 7, we got Trinity Episcopal. Number 8 is Glen Allen. Number 9 is Louisa. Number 10 is St. Chris. 11 Huguenot Falcons, and round out his top 12 is Thomas Jefferson. Which
Mm.
thought on the poll?
Oh, that last one kind of is a shocker to me. TJ has been kind of well proven. I feel like they probably need to be a little bit higher. Um, I can't really speak on where anybody puts Huguenot right now. I mean,
Yeah,
after how everything went, that we lucky to be in anybody poll. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So Um, no, was it Armstrong in there?
No, not his poll. No, Armstrong not even in there. And they,
If Armstrong not a top 12 team in the area, then um
yeah,
yeah. So that's a little this is just my personal opinion.
for sure, yeah.
And then I'm gonna tell you two more that stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if anybody has seen Manchester this year.
Because they put up 83, didn't they? They put up
83. They put
83.
up. I was at the game. They put up like 40 something in one quarter. It was 70 to none at halftime. Now, granted, it's Monacan. But I also watched them scrimmage Phoebus, and they looked really good against Phoebus. They looked really, 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 really good against Phoebus. Um, Manchester is going to be really good this year. I think they'll finish the regular season, 9-1, obviously, because they got to play. They got to
Yeah,
come on the Forest Hill week 10, So, but
yeah.
they're a really, really good team, and they probably need to be just I think I had them at 5. I would put them slightly ahead of Dinwiddie. I think Dinwiddie was 4, and possibly even Benedictine and put them at 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I'm not all the way sold on Thomas Dale yet, man. I'm not all the way sold on Thomas Dale yet. Definitely had a down year last year due to injuries. Um, and I think that was a little high. And I
Yeah.
might be jumping the gun a little bit, but just looking at this upcoming game, I think this may be the like growing up. I'm from Chesterfield. The Battle of
Mm-hmm.
Chester,
Oh
Thomas
yeah,
Dale,
yeah.
L.C. Bird, like that has always trumped any other game. That's this side's Verona Highland
Hannah
Springs.
Springs, facts.
So and just looking at it this year, like I don't think it's going to be anywhere as big as how it has. You got a rebuilding. Bird, they can call it whatever they want to call it, but they in a rebuild. Yeah, anytime you graduate all those seniors, you graduate Jason Wright, Corey Holland, then you have a Sir Paul Cheeks transfer. That's and then I want to say it was a receiver too that baby graduated. Like you graduated like 95% of your offense, and you see they didn't score a point last year. And then Thomas Dale, they're coming off of if I'm not mistaken, a 6-5 year last year, and struggled to score on Cosby this year. So I don't know if I would have Thomas Dale on there. I'm not sure. Or at
Yeah,
least not where they are. But I always love seeing all the polls, man.
I know.
Anytime for me, anytime high school football is getting coverage like that, I'm cool with it. I might have my opinions on this and that, but anybody that does this stuff, because ain't nobody getting rich off of this stuff. Ain't nobody
Right.
getting rich off of it. So I like anybody that,
Yep.
takes the time to break it down, and the way Rob Witham breaks down those his poll, each team. I mean, it's amazing. It
Yeah.
gives you insight on each and every team, and
Yep.
that I love that. So, but
Yep.
good poll.
Yeah, it's for the love of the game at this point.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Facts.
Yeah.
That part, right? Yeah, and I like. And I think too, where sometimes like certain polls, like some people, they like some people don't have like Louisa because of the area, and
Right. That's a tricky
right.
one. Yeah.
So it's tricky that, and I think like I don't know, like when Danny do his, I don't think he includes like the
Yeah.
practice
He
group.
only does. He does the like
Yeah.
the
Um.
original old school like Central Region, which are for
Yeah.
this is
Central. Yeah.
Dominion Central Colonial Capital. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had thought about doing a poll. I'm like maybe next year when we kind of be more
Go
knee
ahead, get
deep
you one.
in.
Go ahead, get you
Yeah,
one
man,
for
we
sure.
might get one, but yeah, I'm cool with it. Like you said, like you said, the whole like TJ, like I definitely think they need to be higher because I still think that still was a good win against IT Norcom last week.
Oh
I
yeah,
know
for
as far as
sure. For
so I
sure.
mean like the fact that you shut them down, and I'm not sure really how IC Norcom is, but I remember how they were back in the day. But I still think any team you can shut a team out at home, in that type
And
of
that's a
fashion. So
7-5-17, man.
right,
That they're gonna have athletes. You know that they're gonna
exactly.
have some really, really good players. So You know, that's a good win to me. That's a good win.
And then like you talked about Manchester, I definitely think, like you said, even though it's Monacan, but I mean, you hang up 83. I haven't seen nobody put up 83. Like,
Yeah.
even I've gone to a few TJ games and they might have hung like 70 something last year, but that 83.
And it takes a lot. I was you know, Hugh and I, we played my alma mater, Clover Hill, and we put up, it was, I think his final score was 81-7. It's a lot to score 80 points. Like, it's a lot, especially, you know, when you're trying to take your foot off the gas, you know. And I was there trying to take the foot off the gas, and you know, but they just overpowered them. But yeah,
Yeah. And the good thing about like the polls, it kind of sets itself up for these matchups that we're going to be talking about momentarily. So, what are your top three games to watch this week?
oh man. Well, off the top of my head, man, I don't think it's a bigger game in the state than more in Veranda. I
Yeah.
mean, that game is bigger than. You got 804 versus 757. You got, you know, this team won states last year. This team lost in states last year. They got all these recruits. Verona got all these recruits. You know, you got, you know, just bragging, right? It's so many storylines to the game, and you know, and the fact that they playing it, you know, on Route 5. I don't know if y'all know, but that's an advantage in itself. That's an advantage in itself. Them Verona fans, they show up, they show out. They got that annoying horn. You know, everybody talk about the cannon at Dinwiddie, but that horn that they got at Verona is annoying. You know, but they're gonna keep on letting it off if you let them. You know, so but that is gonna be a big time. It don't get no bigger than that in the regular season. It don't get no better than that, and you know, this will be a true test for both of them. And Maury is just coming off a big test. They just played Cardinal Gibbons High School. If I'm not, was that Maury? I think, well, I get confused with some of them 7-5-17, but
Right.
they just played a big game last week. So that's gonna be a big game. Um, Another one that's kind of flying under the radar a little bit is I mentioned them, but I got to mention them again. But Manchester versus Glen Allen. That's gonna be a really really good game. You know, obviously, like we just talked about Manchester, they just put up a whole lot of points. You know, a lot of people didn't know what Glen Allen was gonna do. You know, based off of just the fact that they lost so many people. You know, they had a really really good team last year, really good year, the best year they ever had. But you know, you lose a guy like, if I'm not mistaken, Dallas Chavis, I believe his name was. And you know, a lot of their guys, but you know, they got a really good staff over there, got them guys ready. So, and you know, opened up with a blowout win over Prince George, a Tom Hall coach, Prince George. So, man, that's gonna be a massive matchup. Um, then my third one, got to come back to the city with it, man. T.J. Armstrong, like T.J. Arms, like this, and that has become a real rivalry. You know, that's become a real rivalry. I do like it being played a little bit later in the season, just like how Danny Lewis was talking about Highland Springs around. I do like T.J. Armstrong being, you know, played, you know, somewhere between week 8 and week 10, and you know, possibly meeting back up in the playoffs. But you know, again, it don't really get much better than that because they know chances are they're gonna see each other again. You know, so that those probably my three top. You know, it's obviously a couple other games. You know, Highland Springs plays a good team out of North Carolina. You know, it's a few other ones, but those are my personal top three games to watch this
year. Yeah, like you said, those are the ones I had. Obviously, like you said, Verona versus Maury. You know, obviously Maury is a 2-time state champion, consecutive champions, powerhouse. And that's one thing because, and it's funny because when I looked at the schedule in the beginning of this, you know, like in May when it came out, and I started looking, you know, and I'm like, wow, that's just amazing. And then I had Coach Lou on my show, and I think it was in June, and we had talked. I asked him like, hey, just what was just your overall thoughts on when the schedule was coming together? He said, "Hey, we want this type of competition. This is going to help us in the long run." I think that's one thing too, where I think that's like the blueprint. We've seen other teams do this, where hey, you get those teams from the 757, you get those tough teams to help you down the road. So I definitely think this would be a great test for Verano.
Right.
Like you
And
said,
let me mention something real quick. And
yeah,
I'm gonna go off of where we at right now, but I do want to
yeah, yeah.
I love how they are allowed to do their scheduled Highland Springs, Verona, those capital district teams, because for the past 10 years, the way they've changed the playoff format, and the divisions and things like that, um, your district play doesn't really mean as much as it used. You remember back in the day,
Yeah.
like you had to win your district to secure
Yeah.
that playoff spot.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's
Yep.
not
I
like that.
remember that.
So
Yep.
Capital District, they don't have to play all of the district teams. And so with me being a Huguenot, one of the issues that we're facing right now is, the demand district is still on this thing of we have to play every district game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you go back in the day, that's fine. But now, you got a Cosby that enters the district. So now that makes it 8 district games. Then a couple years ago, we got Powhatan entered the district. That takes it up to 9 district games. So guess what? We only get one out of district game. So
Yep.
when we play St. Chris, that's all we got. We don't play another team outside of our district until we'll get to the playoffs. And I think that's an issue, and that's hurting. That hurt us a lot last year because if you remember, we were 10-0, ended up getting the number 3 seed because just
Yep.
off of power points, we didn't really play a
Yeah.
lot of really 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 good teams. So that's something that the Dominion District, like we not in the 80s and 90s no more, and like I really hope that they change that for what the playoff format is, so that you can help some of these Dominion District teams out, like a
Yeah.
Midlo, like a Huguenot, like a Manchester, so that we can get
Yeah.
more bump outside of our district and get more points. So
Yeah, because like, if you were to venture out back in the 757, you get a nice quality win over there. Guess what? You're hosting the class fours, championship on Forest Hill
and
compared
that
to
and that
either. Yeah,
makes again
huge difference.
it makes a huge
Huge
difference when you
difference.
in your own locker room, when you're on your
Yep.
own field,
Yep.
when you familiar
Yeah.
with everything as to hopping on the bus in the cold,
Oh.
going into a tough,
Yep.
rowdy environment. Like
Yep.
it's
Yep.
real, man. It's real.
Yeah.
So it got to be it. You know,
Yeah.
if we gonna change stuff, then we gotta
Yeah.
go all the way with it. And that's something that the Dominion District is hurting its district teams in the long run. So props to the Capital District and all these other districts who let their teams go out and get that bump, because it make you prepare once you get into the playoffs, because you don't already
Yeah.
play real good competition.
And that'll give and that's another thing to even win or loss for Verona, that's still gonna bump them up in four. So like you
It,
said, and that's where I think, especially as these years progress and people have these heightened expectations for Huguenot, which not necessarily saying the pressure's on, but it's another one where hey, if this team will take the next step. But
right,
you can't take the next step if you're not allowing me to take the next step. You know what I mean? Like as far
exactly.
as yes, you like you said, you can go in your district and dominate, but what does that really matter in the grand scheme of things? If I'm
Right.
like you said, I'm 10-0, but then I'm on the road against Verona that's maybe like 8-3, or I mean not 8-3, but
Right.
like
Yeah.
seven and
Yeah. Yeah.
three
Yeah.
or 8-2 because of their strength of schedule. Which
Right. Right. Yeah.
just
And
as just an example.
yeah. No. It really puts those teams at a advantage. And I just it's something that has to change soon, because I mean, again, this ain't no disrespect, but like you know some of the teams that have been like taking off, what's a capital like, I don't know, they take certain teams out of the schedule that they feel like maybe wouldn't benefit them. And sometimes we'll play, a team again, no disrespect, but like, how do we get better playing somebody like a Clover Hill who hasn't won more than one game in 2 years of new head? It just it
Yeah.
kind of really doesn't do anything for you. And I just, you know, I just wish I wish it was something that could be done.
Right. And to your point, because now the back this week and then Clover Hill is next week. And
That,
then what's going to happen 2 weeks from now, where yes, you'll get that. Well, we'll just say you're going to get that convincing win, air quotes, potentially, because
potential.
we don't, potentially.
Right.
It's still going to be something where okay, yeah, they're going to take it out on Clover Hill, but what does that mean in the grand scheme of things?
Exactly.
Especially,
I mean,
right,
we could beat them 100-0, and it just
right, and it's still yes, it might, like you said, it might look good, but how that's going to help, like, versus like we not on the same trajectory. Because even if
right.
that win coupled with maybe like a Verona loss potentially, regardless of the fashion, if they do lose, it's just saying if hypothetical, it's more than all the hypotheticals. Their loss to Maury, if this happens, it's just hypothetical. It's like way more in gold than a shutout victory against Clover Hill.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
that's not even like that. That is literally proven. Like last year, really showed it to me, because there was nothing more. I mean, we went 10-0. I mean, our average margin of victory was some ridiculous, and we still were not just the second seed, but the third seed. I'm like, something has to be done. But anyway, not to go off of
it's all but hey, that's what we do here that's what we do under the lights under lights 804. Hey,
for sure.
It's passionate banter about 804 football. So that's
right.
that's how we get down. I'm also Armstrong and TJ, like you said, that's another one that's on my radar. Obviously, like you said, this is supposed to be like a late October, early November, last game of the season type of matchup. And this has become a rivalry. It's to a point where I mean, so I had talked to Coach Harris after we did the interview, and because trying to get up there and cover one of the games, and I was asked him, I was like, oh yes, you play. We talked about it in our interview about week 2. So after we were done everything, I was like, okay, so that's gonna be at Hovey Field. He looked at me, he was like, no. We want them at our house. He was like, no, that's a. He told me, he's like, that's a September 4th, 4:45 game at our spot. I was like, oh,
I saw that. I didn't notice that. I'm like, because once I saw it was 4:45, I said, wait a minute, they must be playing in that. And that place, that's gonna be a standing room. I mean,
yes,
it's gonna be crazy.
Yes, West Grace gonna be jumping. Grace gonna be jumping.
Yup, for sure. That's gonna be good.
When he told me, he was like, nah, we playing at the crib Thursday, September 4th at 4:45. I was like, say less.
Yeah, because they played it over at they played it over on Cool Lane last year.
And
that was obviously I wasn't there, but they said it was rocking over there. So man, I just love seeing all the city programs like doing so well and playing in big games. That it's pretty much it's cool, man. I enjoy it. So yeah, that's gonna be good. That's gonna be good.
And games that matter at this point, and it's games that matter.
Absolutely.
So that's like you said, the beauty of it, and it just lets you know, like the talent is all over the city. It's not just the embarrassing of Richmond's on one side of town or other side of districts or whatever. But yeah, like we said, everybody's eating. Like as far as when it comes to the success, the personnel, everything. We got like I said, it's embarrassing of riches in this area. Great coaches, great players, for sure. Yeah, man. So we're around up. Before we get out, I definitely got to give you a huge shout out what you're doing at Huguenot. Like I told Coach Scott, and even when you post your stuff, I'd be like, yo, y'all don't miss, and y'all is you. So what you're doing at Huguenot is amazing. Like as far as just that social media aspect, especially I think one of the coldest pictures when they took that picture right in front of Southside Plaza. I was like, oh yeah,
that was my idea.
That was my cold.
Idea all the way.
That was cold. Yeah, that was cold.
About that the year before. I said we got to do this.
Yes.
We got to do this. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and y'all did the Halloween thing too. I thought that was dope last year.
Man, I just have a vision, man, of just just showing off our guys, showing off that it could be a good program in the city of Richmond, and we could have nice stuff. We got a nice stadium. We got nice uniforms. Like we're doing great in school. We got kids going to college. Like I'm gonna show off any and everything that our kids do, and I want that to be the standard. Like I came in doing this thing, from transitioning from VSN and just being like, I kind of want to set a standard and see other people elevate their media, because I mean that's what you have to do, and I really enjoy what I do. I enjoy putting our players out, putting our team out, and I'm gonna continue to do that. Been a little bit of a rough week the past few days, not too much to really put out, but I enjoy I enjoy working over at Huguenot, and those my guys, and just trying to elevate the media game, and want everybody else to do the same.
Yeah, man. But definitely got to give you a huge shout out for that, and what you're doing over there on Forest Hill Avenue, for sure.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate
it. Yeah, man. So this wraps up episode 2 of 804 Under the Lights. Brandon, once again, appreciate you for coming through. We definitely gonna have you come through, several times.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, man.
It's like I said, this is something great that you're doing, and I look forward to being on here more, man.
For sure. Appreciate it, man. And this wraps up episode 2. We'll catch you guys next week under the lights in 804. And we out.